Hi guys, welcome to the Jessops YouTube channel. I'm Pete from the Academy team. I'm also the team's motorsports specialist, and I just thought I'd give you some of my basic hints and tips for motorsport photography. One of the best things I look for when I'm photographing motorsports, folks, is light. I know that sounds really daft. It's photography in its rawest form. But like where we were earlier, it was a little bit harsh. It was the wrong side of the car. We were getting a lot of glare back off the windscreens. So we've moved over to a slightly different spot now of the circuit. We've got this really nice patch of light just on the exit of the corner. You can see it's really clear, distinct light and dark patch. So when you start to play around with the exposure, you'll get the cars just sat beautifully in this nice little pool of light. It'll be darker either side than you're normally expecting, as long as we expose for that section of the track. So let's go and give it a go. You may have noticed I've squatted down a little bit. So one of the best things really when you shoot motorsports is constantly change that angle, change that perspective. You know, we've got the cars coming out of a corner, they're quite a distance away from us at the moment, but then they go off up this bank, and actually lowering our perspective, shooting from a lower vantage point, makes all the difference here. We don't look like we're shooting the roofs all the time. Right, let's get a few more. So what we've done now, guys, is we've moved into the shadowed areas of the circuit. The sun's really high today. There's not really a lot of dappled light on the track, so we're creating our own contrast here. So we've actually moved into a wooded area for two reasons. One, it's 25 degrees and we're all melting here. And the other reason is it creates this amazing contrast between the foreground and the background. So we've got this really nice bright pocket of light right out on the track as the cars are coming through. And we're creating loads of contrast with the dark foreground of the trees, a little bit of colour coming through in some of the brighter areas of the green, so you still get those little elements of detail, but it's really making a car pop within its location on the track. So one of the questions I frequently get asked is around exposure and what's right, what's wrong as such. First and foremost, there's no right or wrong. Everyone has their own take on exposure. Everybody likes their results to be a certain brightness or darkness. For me personally, I'm a manual shooter, especially when it comes to motorsports. And the key reason for that is complete control of that exposure, being able to control the highlights, being able to control the shadows. And generally I'm going to shoot around about 2/3 to a full stop underexposed. It gives me then complete control and restraint of the highlights. There's nothing worse in an image, I feel, than over brightening the windscreen or the bonnet. A lot of the key sponsors' logos are on the paintwork, and suddenly if you lift that exposure just a little bit too much, you're going to blow them out, you're going to lose them completely, and that's ultimately what's going to lead you to selling that image. So just always aim for that little underexposure. People quite often ask me what I do at a circuit. You know, where I go, how long I stay for, do I stay in the same place, do I move around? And to be fair, I mean, there's pros and cons to both. You know, I mean, some of the major things you can get from staying in one place constantly is you're always going to see, not necessarily the same action, but you're increasing the chance and probability that some form of action is going to happen in front of you. There's no worse feeling as a photographer than you walk to the other side of the circuit and the corner you've just been at, there's a big accident. That said though, if you're in the same position all day throughout the day, a lot of your shots are going to start to become very repetitive. You have to really focus on using a lot of panning techniques, creative techniques. But at the same time, you do get that constant changing light. So you'll get the same view, but in a different way, because the light will constantly move around, it will change the shadows, it will change the way the light is falling, the way it reacts with the cars or the bikes. So you can absolutely stay in the right place. One overwhelming thing that comes whether you're choosing to stay in the same place or move around the circuit is you've got to know your circuit. You've got to know the hot spots, the photographic spots, the key locations to get to. You know, and if you choose to stay in one spot, then absolutely great. We've got some beautiful light changing right now where we are, you know, and it's absolutely transforming the shot from 5 minutes ago, even though it's the same shot. But for me as a photographer, I'm very much about getting around. I've got a brief to fulfill most days when I'm working. So tomorrow I'm back here shooting trackside. I've got several briefs, several cars to photograph. They're all going to have to be different locations. They want different points in the race. They want, you know, leaders right through to last place. So photographing that from different locations around the circuit is going to be far more ideal because I can add a little bit more diversity to the shots. I can get some great shots of leaders that really stand out. I can get some great shots of battles in tighter corners in different locations of the circuit. And then I can move around with the light. So I've always got good light, always working in the way that I want it to work, so that I maintain the same creativity that I like to have in my images. So there's absolutely pros and cons to both. And I'm not going to say that, you know, any one person should do one or the other, but absolutely know your circuit, know your location, find your locations. You know, don't be a sheep, don't follow the herd, look for something different, look for something that's you. And if it's one spot and you can really, really work and hone that shot, absolutely do that. So I hope you've enjoyed today's basic tips for motorsport photography, folks. If you want to learn a bit more about motorsports photography, please join us on one of our Jessops Academy motorsports workshops, details of which are in the link below. If you've also got any top tips, please pop those in the comments below, or better still, post some of your images directly onto Instagram and use the hashtag #JessopsAcademy. We as a team will see that. I'll personally have a look at them, review them, and I can drop you any comments on there as well. Hope you've enjoyed today's video, folks. If you have, please click like and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the bell icon to stay up to date with all the latest notifications. We'll see you again soon. Bye for now. That looks sick.